Perhaps the biggest difference between roughing it at the Prickle farm and lounging behind the cream brick luxury of Canberra is the fact that death becomes more of a way of life in the country. Does that make sense? Anyhow, I first started getting philosophical about all this when I was forced to execute Eric, the smallest of our roosters. Eric had jumped the fence and taken up abode with the chooks operated by our neighbour, Mrs. Whittaker. He spent most of the day patrolling the fence line, poking his tongue out and blowing raspberries at our chooks. He even called Beulah, our sex-change rooster, a jaded old fairy. We put this down to Eric's natural truculence. Then one morning he barged into Mrs. Whittaker's chook house and did over 3 of her roosters. But he nearly killed them, and they were all twice his size. Mrs. W came to their rescue and hurled Eric back over the fence. He immediately fronted Beulah again and called him a feathery old poof. Beulah dropped his handbag and shaped up to Eric. I dragged them apart and decided the troublemaker had to go. It takes a split second to dispatch a chook. It takes slightly longer to pluck him, a little longer still to cook him, and the result is generally delicious. However, city friends immediately go to water when you tell them you've done the dreadful deed. "Oh," they scream. "Did he scream? Did he run round the yard with his head off?" And the perennial, "Oh, how could you?" I've developed the perfect antidote for this sort of pointless discussion. Before they come out with their idiot questions, I informed them Eric died painlessly. I made sure of this by gently filing his head off so as not to surprise him too much. Funny thing though, quite a few people don't want to discuss anything with me ever again. Oh well. Even Emmylou Cabbage, small brown dog pioneer extraordinary, wasn't particularly amused by Eric's demise. She'd erred earlier by killing one of our ducks in a moment of mirth. But after I dispatched Eric in front of her, she went into shock for a few hours. "Ooh, how could you?" The same reaction from a small brown dog. She's not quite completed the transition to rural living after all. Our next death occurred when Dorothy, the most maternal of our chooks, kicked one of her day-old chicks to death in a frenzy to get to her first decent feed in weeks. No one said, "Ooh, how could you?" but there were quite a few ahs among our urban friends when news of the tragedy was casually dropped into conversation. Then Matt Crow died. No, not Matt Crow, genial host of the Gundaroo wine bar, but Matt the Crow, egg rustler of renown. Our duck eggs had been vanishing quite mysteriously. One night on egg patrol, we found a young crow. He had something wrong with his feet and couldn't fly. There's some logic missing in that statement, but don't question it too closely. On twisted feet, he'd been walking around the Prickle farm, dining sumptuously on our duck eggs. I popped him in a cage with some goodies and began formulating plans to make a pet of him or train him or something. And what better name for a Gundaroo crow than Matt Crow? Well, Matt the Crow didn't last long at all. He got up on his wonky legs, became too ambitious, poked his head through the mesh of his cage, promptly fell over and hanged himself on the bars. According to the code of the West, probably a fitting end for an egg rustler, but I was sorry to see him go. We placed him and the aforementioned dead chick in a plastic supermarket bag, and a few days later, when our noses dictated the time was right, I ceremoniously interred them at the Gundaroo tip. Emmylou Cabbage was the only other mourner at the funeral, and I must say she didn't show much respect for the deceased. During the service she found a prime ripe kangaroo carcass at the tip and proceeded to show it far more respect than the former Prickle farm resident. I wasn't long back from the tip when I found 2 of the ducks, Princess and Dinsdale, ceremonially pulling apart Llewellyn the frog in the backyard. It's a harsh life sometimes on the Prickle farm.